Today I'm going to show you how to change a spring in a power cut secateur, also known as a Mark 1, 2, 3 or 4. To complete this task, all we need is a small flat blade screwdriver, and I often put a piece of cloth down so when I'm undoing the circlip that it doesn't flick away. The cloth will stop it, and also to stop marking a bench. So the secateur has the blade pivot bolt, hinge pivot and ratchet arm pivot. What we need to take out is the hinge pivot pin, and the way we do this is that we take the circlip out, we just ease it out like such, put that to the side, take the washer out, with your thumb push the pin down, turn it over and pull the pin out. What that allows to do is the bottom handle to pivot away from the top handle and expose the spring. The example I'm using here today is a new secateur, so the spring is fine. Typical of a broken or soft spring is such where the spring will actually snap, or the spring will go compress and cause the secateur to be soft. We have an example here today of where the actual spring sits. We've modified this secateur to show simple terms. The spring comes down and goes onto the bottom of the ratchet arm. That's the silver arm that appears out of the top. And to better explain that, that is the actual ratchet arm there, and the spring, which has two different size ends. One end is flared. The flared end, or the larger end, goes on to the two little pointers that sit on the bottom of the ratchet arm. So with our secateur that we've actually dismantled, I'll turn it over so I'm working as such, looking down inside with the flared end going down first and being careful of the blade. I'm going to push the spring onto the two pointers as such. The way to test whether you've got the spring on correctly is if you turn it upside down and the spring doesn't fall out, you've done it correctly. Then what you do, guiding the spring with one finger, you're pushing the spring up inside the housing, the top handle housing. And to explain that further, that's the top handle flipped over. The small end slides up into that groove there. So to complete the spring fitting, I've pushed the spring up into the point. I then, holding the bottom handle with my thumb through the hand grip, I slide the top handle back in so that I can see through the pin hole. Working upside down, I push the pin through as such. Then the washer then fits to there, and the circlip then fits back on. And I start it with my fingers, and then using the flat side of the screwdriver, push it into place. When I look inside the secateur, I can look to see that the spring is actually straight. If it's bowed out towards you, it hasn't gone into the top handle correctly. To fix that problem, if you pull down on the spring with the flat blade screwdriver and let it go, it will pop back into place. The secateur then, as far as checking that you've fitted it correctly, should operate as such, with the ratchet pin going through the ratchet window on the blade, the back end of the blade, and the secateur is now fit for use. When I do this, whenever I fit a spring, I always lubricate the secateur, and I find the best way to lubricate it is with a can of spray lubricant, in this case WD-40. And the way that I'm going to lubricate it is really quite simple, is I'm going to spray from here around to here 2 or 3 times, as such. Once I complete that, to help lubricate and also clean any rubbish that's in the secateur out, I simply open and close the secateur, going with the blade pointing away down. What this allows to happen is for any rubbish that's built up and excess oil to wash out the front of the secateur. Then grabbing an old cloth, in this case, giving the secateur a wipe, always with the blade pointing away from me. Being careful with the bottom, and the secateur now is ready to go back to cutting. Thank you.